My name is Orsa Kekezi, and I just graduated with a PhD in economics from Jönköping International Business School. I have been studying at JIBS since my bachelor studies, and then I did my master's here and then the PhD as well. My thesis deals with labor mobility in Sweden. The title of it is Labor Mobility Across Jobs and Space, and I look at what happens when people switch jobs, the consequences of people switching jobs, whether that is something positive or negative, and what happens when people move in space. So I have 4 chapters in my thesis. All of them deal with different aspects of labor mobility. You can say in the beginning, I look at issues regarding labor mobility and knowledge transfer. So as people move across firms, how much of their new knowledge or their old knowledge they're bringing with them to the new firm, and its consequences for firm performance, but also for regional development and regional innovation. Later on in the thesis, I also look at people who lose their jobs and what happens when all of a sudden the company that they were working at closed down. And what I find there is that regional characteristics really matter for the job match that people get after they get displaced in the labor market. So depending on where they live, they get different types of jobs. And in the last paper, I also look at people who still lose their jobs, but they migrate after displacement, and whether there are positive or negative wage returns to migrating. And results there show that migration in itself doesn't really matter for earnings, but what matters is if you actually get a good job afterwards. So in general, the results that my thesis show is that finding the right person for the right job is actually important, and this is achieved when you see people moving jobs a little bit more, and that is good for firms if they find somebody with the right competence. That's good for the individuals if they end up working in a firm that they have the skills for, because then they get higher wages. But that's also good for regional development, because everything is connected together, and in the end of the day we end up with better economic or higher economic development. So this is a little bit my thesis in a nutshell.